Hi, my name is Tara. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I am a giant nerd. I just told somebody at breakfast that I'm a professional poker player, which is sort of true for the next several weeks. I love what I do. I get a chance to be here with my husband, Deviant, and I am thrilled to be in South Dakota. How many of you are startled at how awesome the venue, the place that we're at, the quality of the talks has been so far? This is pretty incredible, right? Yeah, this is amazing. I'm also so grateful and so glad to see so many of you here early this morning. I hope you got some coffee too. Let's have a conversation today about some of the fun stuff that hackers are doing to the global economy. Again, I'm Tara Wheeler. I've spent a lot of time in political economy as well as information security. And I ended up looking at efficiencies of the world a little bit differently than most people did. I found an inefficiency in hiring, which you can see here. And I found inefficiencies in the way people like to think about information security, because we don't often think about probabilistic behavior and how it is that we predict the consequences of our actions. So let's have a conversation about how the world is different because hackers keep thinking that math doesn't have consequences. At least we all know it's real, right? There are folks all over the world who like to argue that math that they don't like can be regulated against, and I think we know what the consequences of that are. How many of you have heard the name Malcolm Turnbull before? Prime Minister of Australia. He had a great quote last year, "Math is math, but this is Australia." And I was like, I know the toilets go the opposite direction there, but I'm pretty sure math still works down in Australia. Maybe. I'm not all the way sure, and I'm looking forward, hopefully, one day to getting to go to Australia and find out myself. I don't know how many people in the room have ever heard of Phryne Fisher, Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. Yes, we have some nodding heads in here. I'm extremely excited about going and trailing about in St. Kilda, Melbourne. I think math probably works there just as well as it does here. I like math. As I spent my time in behavioral economics, international security, not information security, in graduate school, I learned that cognitive behavioral theory is really effective for a game called poker. It turns out that really understanding how people make bad decisions about something that is concrete under a short time horizon with a great deal of psychological pressure on them is valid not only in poker, but information security and the hacking world. So the world we live in right now is a lot more complex than I think many of us have had a chance to grasp. And we've done so many technical talks while we're here. I want to take a moment as we wake up gradually and hopefully stretch your mind to some of the possibilities that exist out there as cybersecurity becomes more and more influential in the way that we live in this world. We're all part of an industry that is getting a great deal of attention recently. Now, I asked you how many had heard of Miss Phryne Fisher. I'm going to guess more people recognize this right here, this slide. Yes? What is it? It's WannaCry, right. Who said WannaCry first? Remember, I'm not throwing money to anybody on that side of the room. There we are. You'll get the point of this in a minute. What's up, Amit? All right, I bet Amit's going to recognize this one too. All right. WannaCry brought attention to the entire world of the nature of information security and the fact that it's not something that can be taken for granted anymore in the way that it used to be. The young man who found a way to stop this wasn't someone who was your typical tech worker. He was 4 hours outside of London, a random kid in the middle of nowhere who was just curious enough to see what would happen if he registered a domain name, right? Marcus saved a lot of people that day, and I think we're all bloody grateful to him, as he likes to say at this point now, too. So, what does this mean to money in the world? I like money. I like figuring out how money works. I like figuring out how the economy works, and I like figuring out exactly how information security and financial security collide. The answer to that is more and more, they're starting to become the same thing. The goal of people in banks, in financial transfer institutions, is to try to figure out a way to make globalization frictionless. What happens when you remove friction from a transaction? what is the thing that it becomes? Usually more efficient. Who makes money on efficiency? Middlemen, right? So there's a class of people in the world who like making money more efficient when it comes from one place and goes to another. These people were originally quite stymied at the existence of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a weird cat, and we're going to talk about how it's changing the world in a way that most people couldn't possibly have anticipated, and more than that, how you can participate in it. Transactions aren't something that are metadata free, right? Unless there is a way to go knowledge free after the transaction, there's always going to be metadata attached to them. The metadata attached to cryptocurrency transactions are something that is often more valuable than the transaction itself, right? Especially if you have a large number of small transactions, what you end up with is a body of data on how humans behave and transact business together. That right there, over the long run, can be far more valuable than any $5 transaction on PayPal, anything you've ever done on Coinbase. And oh my God, the Coinbase user interface, right? How many of you have had a chance to purchase Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin, through Coinbase, right? Yeah. The Coinbase interface is an interesting one because the world's financial institutions haven't yet figured out how to seamlessly transfer one store of value to one medium of exchange. What's the difference between a store of value and a medium of exchange? One of those is what Bitcoin is right now. Yeah? Oh, that was a hair flip. It wasn't a raised hand. I'm going to put words in your mouth, and I'm going to guess that you already know that Bitcoin is a store of value. Why is it a less effective medium of exchange? Best guesses? Yeah. It's harder to spend it. Why is it harder to spend it? You have to have people who will accept it. It can operate as a store of value, but then again, so can an entire field of growing wheat. That is a store of value as well, right? It's a commodity, but it's very rare to walk into a 7-Eleven and have them accept a bushel of apples for a pack of cigarettes, right? So a store of value doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing as a medium of exchange. A good example of something that is both a medium of exchange and a store of value are poker chips. They're intended to be profoundly fungible. What is fungibility? Frictionless transactions to the best of your capacity using one store of value, a medium of exchange, transferring the same amount of value to the person you're speaking to or transacting with, right? Interestingly, cryptocurrency has a profound new way of transacting information and currency back and forth, which stores more information than a typical fungible medium of exchange in the United States, which would be just a US dollar, right? A dollar has no metadata. It doesn't give you any information about who it is, where it came from, unless you get one of the cool little stamped ones. We know something about 12% of American currency that exists in physical paper form. Any guess what 12% of physical American paper has on it? Cocaine. That is the most common form of metadata on American currency, is the existence of the fact that it passed through the hands of a drug dealer or near the hands of a drug dealer. Pretty fascinating, right? That's the only piece of metadata that we really have on a US dollar bill, other than potentially the place where it was printed from based on its serial number and the location and time, right? That's the only thing that we know about it, but we know a hell of a lot more about cryptocurrency. So here's an interesting question. If we know much, much more about who is using cryptocurrency as a medium of exchange, who's storing all the information about it? Who's keeping track of the way that you use currency and transact back and forth if it's a cryptocurrency? Bitcoin, Monero, Zcash, Dogecoin, Defcoin. Name me some more. Kanye West. Fair enough. Is that actually a thing, or was that a joke? Did he actually do it?
No, people wanted to make it angry.
Oh, that's okay. Fair enough. Yeah, in a world where Paris Hilton is creating her own money, which, I mean, 10 years ago, let's just stop and realize how unlikely that statement would have been. We have a situation where it's very clear if you're getting something at a discount or you're getting something for free, you're not the client anymore. What are you? You're the product, exactly. So where is that product being stored? Who's storing it? Who's analyzing it? And who's selling it? That's the interesting question. Now, the reason that governments are starting to become interested in the concept of why it is and how it is that we store information about people's transactions and their currency has to do with these two gentlemen here, Mundell and Fleming. And this is because at a nation-state level, the invisible transaction of money from one location to another that ignores state boundaries does something called escaping the unholy trinity. Who has any kind of economics background? Even an economics 101 class likely would have at least mentioned the name of this theorem, right? What are the three things that a government can do to control the supply of money in the country? You can go for it. If you want to, shout them out. Most of the time, people have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm guessing you guys are cut above. Say again? Tax? It's fiscal policy? Print less. That's the supply of money or monetary flow. What else? Capital controls, interest rates, monetary flows. Yeah, the price of money, interest rates is basically the same thing. Interest rates and printing money end up being two sides of the same coin, so to speak. So the three things that let governments control the supply of money are monetary flows, capital controls, and fiscal policy, right? So here's the interesting part about what happens when cryptocurrency exists at a large level. When a government has an internal problem involving a strategic supply, imagine wheat or apples or pigs or technologists who want jobs locally or want to leave. What happens when you try to control the supply of money and you have a price problem? What do you start doing when prices start rising in the United States if you're the Federal Reserve and you have those three options at your hands? Borrow more from China. Yeah, that'll do. Lower interest rates. What happens when you lower interest rates? Yep, you make money cheaper, right? You literally lower the price of money when you lower the interest rate. You make it easier for people to purchase money. All right, what happens when you're able to purchase money inside a country and it's not able to be seen where that money has gone? You lose some information, right? Now, here's the reason it's called the unholy trinity. The definition, most people will use this phrase again and again, and they don't actually understand what it means. The definition of a free market economy is one in which we understand that you can't control all three of those things at the same time: monetary flows, capital controls, and fiscal policy. The definition of a free market economy since Bretton Woods and the new economic system that's been in place since World War II and fiat currency is you can engage in monetary pricing and fiscal policy, but capital controls go free. Money flows back and forth between countries freely, and you use the two tools of setting prices and the price of money, costs and pricing inside your country, to control how much you can predict money will flow in and out of the country, right? That's the definition of what it means to be a free market economy, the technical one, right? So what happens when capital controls all of a sudden could be used again in a country like, for instance, Venezuela, which has some capital controls? And yet, the people inside Venezuela can freely transfer without notice money back and forth via Bitcoin wallets. Even if you sold a Bitcoin wallet identity at a discount, you could still get that out of the country. Venezuelan currency, purchasing a cryptocurrency and moving it out of the country. What happens when that happens? Arms dealers is a very good answer to that question, right? What's another answer? Drugs. How about diamonds, right? All of these things are things that leave traces, right? You can notice them, you can prosecute them. It's very difficult to tell how to prosecute somebody who just sits at a computer and transacts value in a way that has not even yet been noticed to be devastating potentially to the economy. In the United States, we have a creative way and a complete bullshit way of prosecuting people who sit behind computers and don't do anything other than point out the government is wrong. I'm talking about the economy right now, not the rest of my political platform. But here's the thing. If we can't control the supply of money, if we don't have capital controls anymore, all of a sudden you start seeing some interesting things about the heterogeneity of currency, okay? There are local cryptocurrencies popping up now, right? Local cryptocurrencies that exist in states like Austin and Boston. I've heard of Boston bucks, things like that, right? Small towns will create their own form of currency that are then used to transact services and goods inside that town, right? Not valid outside of it. So local currencies can often be more fungible than a national fiat currency, right? I know that this is as fungible as it gets. And when it comes to local currency, how far away can I use this? about 150 yards, right? But it is a perfect store of value and perfectly exchangeable for goods and services within about 150 yards, right? So when we think about the way that we trap money inside countries by pricing it appropriately, just remember, there's not actually a door on that barn. Money can leave. And the fact that we can have entire countries incapable of preventing monetary flows outside the country because capital controls functionally don't exist anymore means all of a sudden something that is a reliable store of value and doesn't have to be a medium of exchange starts to do crazy shit like this. This is yesterday. That's yesterday, y'all. I remember about 2 months ago, I was having a conversation. I said, I got to switch to a different interface because Coinbase, God love them. But I look at the way that Bitcoin has been operating, and I see that each and every time there is a major fluctuation, and I'm working more on some of this more interesting research, each and every time there's a major fluctuation in pricing that typically would have been used to justify a capital control, meaning something like you can't leave the country with more than 10,000 physical dollars of currency or physical units of currency, you see a spike in Bitcoin pricing. What is this dip right here? Anybody want to take a guess? Say again? China banning ICOs. Right. Dropped immediately, and then everyone went, what are we worried about? And then the rest of this happened, right? So this is what's getting a little bit nerve-wracking. We all understand, and here's another trait of Bitcoin. What is the major trait of Bitcoin that is unlike fiat currency? Literally the opposite of fiat currency. There's a finite supply of it, right? You can't make more. We can always predict how much there will be based on a function of computing power and based on the concept of how many are already out there, right? You cannot use this as a fiat currency because you can't make more, you can't price it. It is what it is, it's a store of value, and it's one of the reasons it's complicated to turn it into a medium of exchange. So here's the question. If it's that difficult to get Bitcoin back and forth, is it really that frictionless? The answer is no, and that's why it's interesting to people that are monitoring and collecting metadata around the concept of an actual use of cryptocurrencies. And here's the other part of this. Disrupting markets is usually not particularly frictionless, right? What does it do when you're someone who doesn't understand and can't get a hold of cryptocurrency? What do you end up doing? What happens to you? You get left behind, right? When's the last time that happened? Did you say the purge? Nice. You're next. All right. No, wait, actually, I kind of want you on my team. For those of you that don't know, Deviant and I got married in July. This is wonderful. And Chris was one of Deviant's groomsmen. And we got this great like black and white shot of us all like walking down the street. I got to put that in here sometime. I swear to God, the people that were on either side of the aisle for us, you could have taken over a small country with them. These are the folks I want on my side in the purge. Or the apocalypse, or the next time there is an economic revolution that drastically restructures and reshapes the way society works. This is the last time. Who knows what this is? Down Abbey? Okay, fine, you can have money. There we go. Yay, free money. No, you're sitting on the wrong side. You don't get any free money over there. Besides, I'm just buying you beers later anyway. We all know this is going to happen. So Downton Abbey. What is the nature and characteristic of the world money supply and the nature of class societies after the conflict of World War I? What was the major shift that happened? It was a shift to the middle class and away from the land-based aristocracy, which meant that the major store of value, which wasn't a good medium of exchange, shifted over into media of exchange, right? Land used to be the thing that you possessed. You couldn't really exchange it easily. That's why you had to get like married to get more of it. So by the time we got to this stage, we had locked up an incredible amount of value in something that wasn't easily exchangeable. It took a disruption of the entire world to get us to the point where we had a medium of exchange that was functional, that was operational, and that created a middle class. What's happening right now to the middle class? Everywhere, they're disappearing. Exactly. Here, let me fix that for you. No. Did we lose this guy? Okay, there we go. Yeah, the middle class is disappearing. The middle class is disappearing because there is a class of people that can siphon value off the top of friction-filled transactions, and that's what's happening right now, right? It's a fascinating way to look at it. And I know that as I sit there on my keyboard and I'm busy typing away, trying super hard not to do anything that's going to get me tagged by the CFAA. What have I done that like 20 times today? I opened Metasploit on the plane once and like scanned around me, and I was like, shit, am I like a felon now? How do you even know? And yes, well, thank you. He would know, right? Am I even a felon right now? How do we know, right? And so the question of whether or not this is going to be disruptive pops into my head. Legally, financially, am I sure that this is the kind of disruption that 30 years from now we're all going to look back on and go, oh my God, remember that period when the world had the kind of economic shift that either gets us to Star Trek or Star Wars? And I know which one I want to end up at, right? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So am I sure? Yeah, I'm pretty damn sure at this point. Most economists I know are also likewise incredibly sure that this is the kind of disruption that's not going to make a difference in the way every one of us lives our lives, right? So the reason why people are concerned is that there's no way to stop cryptocurrency manipulation to the best of our ability to tell right now. You can choose to delegalize it. You can choose to outlaw the creation of ICOs like they did in China. But the truth is, people that can transact value from one currency to another, a fiat currency, a nation-state currency, end up in a situation where it's very hard to tell who's storing the information and creating these kinds of transactions. Cryptocurrency manipulation is already here, and that's why you're seeing the predictable swings in Bitcoin value. I am not personally wealthy enough to take advantage on a market level of Bitcoin swings, but I know how to if I wanted to. I saw the last time this happened in 1997 with what? The Thai what? Thai bot, right there. All right. You're going to exit the middle class by the time I'm done with you here. Awesome. Cryptocurrency manipulation is already here, and this is increasing global inequality, and this is why it's scary, because we do not and cannot divorce our actions behind the keyboard from the way that it affects the rest of the world, right? Now, how many of you saw this? It was a very unnoticeable little headline that popped out there, and it's one of the most screamingly terrifying things I've ever seen. This currency right here, created by a startup called Stellar. What's the cryptocurrency called? Nope. Lumens. Lumens is now the cryptocurrency that IBM is using as what kind of a transfer back and forth? Anybody know? Between countries. It's called a bridge currency now. And it means that they are internally storing the metadata on their own transactions instead of exposing them to regulatory bodies. That sounded like a whole lot of bullshit coming out of my mouth, but you should be scared right now. Okay? Regulatory bodies that cannot regulate, cannot see the inside of transactions like this, don't know where money's going, and IBM's got a lot of it, right? So, how do we solve some of these problems? There's the old school version of this. Just say hi to those guys over there. No, just teasing you. There's the old school version of this. There's the part where we end up thinking that somebody in a suit is going to save us. I think that this audience is a little less sympathetic to that notion than most, thank God, right? And yet, it wasn't people who started solving problems sitting around a desk that fixed WannaCry. It wasn't the kind of people who created an existence where you could predict carefully and easily the course of your career. It was creative people, right? It was these people. We all wish we had a lab that cool. I wish I had a lab that cool. I know. I'm loving it. I've got like 17 of the books, and that's about it right now. And I got to get some curved screens, baby. Can we get some curved screens when we get home? It's super cool. Okay. All right. Well, then fine. You get a poker. Give me that back. I'm the one that knows what to do with that at the poker table. All right. But it's new minds that are going to solve this kind of a weird problem, and I need you all to start thinking about it now. Because in about 10 years, George Clooney's going to be running for president, and we're all going to be advising him on cybersecurity, right? I mean, God, please, can George Clooney run for president now? I remember when none of the world that we're in right now seemed possible. 10 years from now, it's going to seem just as weird and even weirder, right? We're the people in this room who get to figure out how to solve the kinds of political economy problems that we're the ones creating. We created this. We created a world where we advocate for and use cryptocurrency. We are the alpha adopters, and we are, in a great deal of the sense of the word, personally responsible for what it's doing to people that don't have access to the internet. A lot of the world still doesn't. How are they going to take advantage of this new way of thinking about money and problems, right? We're not clones. We are all just people. And we're all stuck in the same kind of world that isn't as easy, and it's not as simple any longer. It's more complex. It's not two simple choices between use and don't use. The way that we fix an economy that is starting to be so broken that only a tiny slice of people can truly take advantage of it is going to look a lot more like the kind of path you pick when you have to have Frodo tell you the direction of Mordor. It was that Gandalf had to point to the left, right? You know, we have to put a party together. We have to figure out a way to solve these kinds of problems collectively because it's not going to be simple. Right now, half of the world, 3.6 billion people, have the exact same amount of wealth as the world's 8 richest men. 3.6 billion people and 8 dudes have the same amount of wealth in this world. That scares me a great deal. And for all of you who've been busy reading and paying attention in school, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm an ex-college professor, so I'm sure you recognize the lecture style. You end up in a situation where you can't stop thinking about this happening in the world, right? I think we're all capable of solving these problems, but the first step is understanding that they're happening. Just sitting there and hitting enter on the keyboard again and again, or, you know, script it because, you know, what are we? Just hitting enter again and again on the keyboard doesn't absolve us of the responsibility to think about what it is that we're doing to the world as we're doing it, right? I liked being here, and I liked talking to you. I like thinking about money and currency and time, and I like thinking about how it fits together. Start putting the bigger pieces together in your heads about what cryptocurrency is doing to us and to people that don't have access to it. Because 8 men and 3.6 billion people, right? The best I can usually do is about 30 or 40 an hour at this, right? I'm scared about a lack of fungibility and storage. I'm scared about the lack of an up-and-coming middle class in this world. But the kind of idealism that lets us all push the boundaries and be alpha adopters are the reason why we end up being the people who will solve this problem over the course of the coming 10 to 20 years, right? You feel a little bit more hopeful about some of this? You actually have the tools to help make this problem a better one, right? Good. Who wants to play poker with me? Thanks, guys.